So we're going to go over licensing of salespersons. Persons are required to be licensed, regulation of brokers and salespersons. So after completing the unit, you will be able to list the qualifications for and requirements of real estate salespersons, recite the persons who are not required to be licensed, describe the processes of activating and or renewing a real estate license, discuss the circumstance under which the ADRE will issue a temporary broker's license, list the statutory requirements for handling funds, describe the requirements for trust fund accounts, and list the requirements for and process of keeping records. So for the qualifications, you need to be at least 18 years old. So some of you folks are, if you're in high school, senior year, junior year, freshman year of high school, you're under 18, you can't do it. You need to be at least 18 years old. You need to have a 90-hour licensing course within the last 10 years. And then you got to pass both a school and a state exam. The salesperson license is held by the employing broker and must be available for review by the public. A hard copy or online through the ADRE licensee database. A salesperson always represents the employing broker. A salesperson must be licensed to a broker to actively work as a salesperson. Hire form is used when a salesperson leaves the employment of a broker. The salesperson license must be returned to the ADRE, and a sever form is used. So again, when a salesperson leaves the employment of a broker, the salesperson's license must be returned to the ADRE, and a sever form is used. Brokers and salespersons may have their license issued to a professional limited liability company, PLLC, or professional corporation, PC. Licensees may not be licensed to more than one employing real estate broker. However, they may be licensed to and employed by a different cemetery broker or membership camping broker. Let's talk about salesperson licensing. So again, you got to be 18 years old. You need the 90 hours of pre-licensing course, and you got to take a school and a state exam. Salesperson, so licensed to broker. There's active and there's inactive status. So a salesperson can be licensed and held by the broker, available for review, hard copy or online. Always represents the broker. So anytime you act as a salesperson, you act in the name of your broker. You represent your broker. Salesperson always represents the broker. So client is represented by the broker, and the broker is represented by the salesperson. That's like the logic that we follow. There's hire and sever forms. So typically, say a salesperson, a realtor, same salesperson, they want to leave the company. They just go on to the ADRE, Arizona Department of Real Estate website, and just click a button to sever. That's pretty much it. Hire and sever forms: hire salesperson, terminate salesperson. License is returned to the ADRE. So when you click that sever from that brokerage, the license is going to be returned back to ADRE. You don't have to do anything else. So there's ADRE online services. Hire and sever forms, both effective upon receipt by ADRE. So online, you just click that button and it says you want to sever your license from that brokerage. And then the other broker you're going to get hired on with, they will go into the database and click on you and then hire you onto their brokerage. And that's all that's needed. Also, another note, you don't even have to tell them you're quitting. You don't even have to have a discussion with that broker to sever. You just sever whenever you want. You're an independent contractor. Note, licensees may be a PLLC or PC. So licensees, right? You can be a professional limited liability company or a professional corporation. You may represent only one real estate broker. You may also represent a cemetery broker or a membership campground broker. So, true or false? Through its police power, the state has the right to require persons to be licensed in order to broker real estate. This is true, right? So, again, through police power, the state has the right to require persons to be licensed in order to broker real estate. A salesperson always represents the employing broker. This is true. A salesperson is going to always represent the broker. The hiring or severing of a licensee becomes effective when the real estate department receives notice of the action. This is true, right? So hiring or severing of a license becomes effective when the real estate department receives notice of the action. So just because you submit it right then and there doesn't mean it automatically got severed. The ADRE has to accept that sever and post it, and then you're inactive. And then the other brokerage that you're going to hire on with will come in there and pick you up on their side. A salesperson may be licensed as a PLLC, Professional Limited Liability Company, or PC, Professional Corporation. Answer is true. A salesperson may be licensed to one real estate broker to list and sell real estate, and another real estate broker to perform property management services. This one is false, right? It says a salesperson may be licensed to one real estate broker to sell real estate, and another real estate broker to perform property management services. So a lot of realtors, some want to do property management, some want to do residential. You have to be with one broker that does both. And if you can't find a broker that does both, well, then you're going to have to pick one broker and go with one or the other. You can't be with two brokers. A salesperson may be licensed to a real estate broker to list and sell real estate, and a different cemetery broker or membership campground broker to provide those services. This answer is true, right? So again, salesperson may be licensed to a real estate broker to list and sell real estate, and a different cemetery broker or membership campground broker to provide those services. So in terms of cemetery broker, there's another license to be applied for if you want to go down that route. And that's on a different topic. Salespersons may contract directly with clients to assist the client in buying, selling, or renting property. Answer is false. Right? So salesperson may contract directly with clients to assist the client in buying, selling, or renting property. So again, it says salespersons may contract directly with clients, right, to assist the client in buying, selling, or renting property. This is false. If a salesperson changes brokerage firms, the salesperson may automatically transfer her listings to the new company. Again, this is false, right? So it says if a salesperson changes brokerage firms, right, they change, the salesperson may automatically transfer her listings to the new company. So the key word here is automatically. That's not true. You have to get the brokers signing over saying that you're going to do that. And also you need to get the client. Maybe the client doesn't want to go with you. Maybe the client wants to be with that brokerage. So you need the client to sign. And you need your broker to sign saying you're going to take your new listings over to your new brokerage. So individuals not required to be licensed. It's a whole bunch of them. So persons, including officers of a corporation or members of an LLC, who do not receive any additional compensation for buying, selling, leasing, renting, or exchanging their own property, corporate or LLC property. Attorney in fact, holding a specific power of attorney, acting in an isolated transaction. Attorney at law in the performance of duties. Any receiver, a trustee in bankruptcy, or any person acting under a court order. A trustee selling under a deed of trust, a government employee in performance of duties, one natural person who acts as a property manager for one commercial property. That's a big one. So if you're one person and you're doing commercial real estate, but if it's for one commercial property, then you don't need to be licensed. The manager or leasing agent of a residential rental property who performs a service at no more than one location during the regular workday. He or she may receive performance bonuses, but bonus may not be paid more frequently than monthly and may not exceed one half of regular compensation. So, natural persons employed by a designated broker who perform clerical accounting, bookkeeping, or other administrative duties. They don't need to be licensed. A person who, on behalf of another, solicits, arranges, or accepts reservations or monies, or both for occupancy of 31 or fewer days in a dwelling unit. Doesn't need to be licensed. So, individuals not required to be licensed. Some activities do not require a real estate license. So, if you're buying, selling, or renting your own property, you don't need to be licensed. So, here's a little for sale by owner. No extra compensation for corporate officers or LLC's members. So it says right here, for sale by owner, must sell, lost job, um, management, wife left. Yeah. So again, it's always in your best interest to get a realtor or a broker to sell your property. Here you can see the for sale by owner sign. Um, you know, could very well get taken advantage of because they don't know real estate rules. But they don't need to be licensed to do it, and they can do it. So, manager of one commercial property, natural person only, can't be a business, don't need a license. If you're an apartment manager or a leasing agent at one location per day, apartment manager or leasing agent, bonuses are going to be okay, not more than monthly. You can't have like a bonus every single day. Maximum is going to be half of the regular compensation. Employed is administrative staff, telemarketers with limited services, person on behalf of another, soliciting or arranging reservations and or accepting money, occupancies for 31 or less days, dwelling unit. So, true or false? An attorney at law must be licensed in order to receive some portion of a broker's commission. This is true. Why is it true? So, in order to get any money in real estate, you need to have a real estate license. So, you can't pay anybody real estate money if they don't have a real estate license. It's against the rules. Only people with licenses in real estate can get paid real estate money. So, an attorney at law must be licensed in order to receive some portion of a broker's commission. So, that's true. An on-site residential leasing agent who works at more than one apartment property location per day must be licensed. This is true, right? It's an on-site residential leasing agent who works at more than one apartment property location per day must be licensed. So the if it was not more than one apartment property, then they don't need to be licensed. But because this agent is working at more than one apartment property location, then they have to be licensed. A residential apartment property manager who manages one property may receive a performance bonus, but the bonus may not exceed one half of the manager's regular monthly income. This is true. So, a residential apartment property manager who manages one property may receive a performance bonus, but the bonus may not exceed one half of the manager's regular monthly income. A person who is auctioning real estate owned by a bank must be licensed to conduct the auction. So, this is true. Again, a person who's auctioning real estate owned by a bank must be licensed to conduct the auction. A natural person managing one commercial property for compensation is not required to be licensed. True, right? Natural person, they're managing only one commercial property for compensation. They're not going to be required to be licensed because they're only managing one property. Once you start managing more than one property, then you have to be licensed. A person who accepts reservations and collects monies for rental of a dwelling unit for occupancy of 31 days or less must be licensed. This is false, right? So the person who accepts reservations and collects monies for rental of a dwelling unit for occupancy of 31 days or less must be licensed. That's false, right? Because again, if it's one property, they don't need to be licensed. Q&A, may an unlicensed corporate officer receive additional compensation when assisting in the sale or lease of corporate property? This one's going to be no. How come? So again, an unlicensed, because they're unlicensed, receive additional compensation when assisting in the sale or lease of a corporate property. So if they're already receiving compensation from one property and they want to get a compensation from a second one, even if it's still just helping out, they can't get that compensation because they are only operating. You have to be licensed to work in multiple properties. May an unlicensed on-site residential leasing agent or property manager receive a monthly bonus? Yeah, the bonus may not exceed one half of the monthly salary and may not be paid more frequently than monthly. Is a bookkeeper or administrative support person in a real estate office required to be licensed? No. If they're just doing pure bookkeeping and they're not doing any contracts, not explaining contracts, they do not need to be licensed. May a corporation or other entity be hired to perform non residential property management when managing only one property? No. So only a natural person may manage one non residential property without a license. May an unlicensed employee of a corporation or other entity that owns numerous commercial properties manage more than one of those properties? No. Entity would need to hire a broker to perform management services on more than one property. Must a person conducting a real estate auction be licensed? Yes. The auctioneer, right? The auctioneer has to have a license, and the ringman or woman must be licensed because they are negotiating a real estate transaction. So when they say Here's 100,000 going once, going twice. That's the auctioneer. They have to be licensed because they're participating, not even just participating, they're negotiating a real estate in a transaction. So a corporate vice president who is not licensed may receive commission on the sale of property owned by the corporation. This is false. How come? Well, they're not licensed. So, the corporate vice president, if he doesn't have a license, a real estate license, he can't get a real estate commission. Real estate license requires real estate commission. Or, sorry, I think I said that backwards. Real estate commission requires real estate license. Unlicensed on site residential leasing agents may not be paid performance bonuses. This is false, right? Unlicensed on site residential leasing agents, they may be paid performance bonuses. To be exempt from licensing, the manager of one commercial property must be a natural person. This is true, right? So, to be exempt from licensing, the manager of one commercial property must be a natural person. So, story time. I was selling a property, and I think one broker came up to me and didn't like it, that I was doing some property management, but it was for my own house. So, as long as you're doing it for your own property, you're okay. But once you start doing it for someone else, then you need a broker's license. Real estate auctioneers must be licensed. This is true, right? When you see an auctioneer, they're saying 100,000, going once, going twice, sold, right? That they're negotiating a transaction, a real estate transaction, and whenever you negotiate real estate transactions, you have to have a real estate license. So brokers and salespeople have 1 year from the date of passing the state examination to become licensed. Right? Again, brokers and salespeople have 1 year from the date of passing the state exam to become licensed. So an original license is issued for 2 years from the end of the month of activation. Prior to becoming licensed, applicants for a salesperson license must complete 6 hours of instruction in contract writing. Broker's license must attend 3 broker management clinics. Salesperson or broker license may be on active or inactive status. Active status means that a licensee is legally able to provide brokerages services, i.e., a salesperson or associate broker is employed by a broker. Inactive status means that the person is licensed but may not provide brokerage services. So, i.e., a salesperson or associate broker is not employed by a broker. So, you take the school exam, you pass it, you take the state exam, you pass it. After that state exam, passing it, you get 1 year to get your license. Otherwise, that expires and you got to retake the test. Renewal of broker and salesperson licenses. Licenses must be renewed every 2 years by the last business day of the month of activation. If the license is not renewed, it is expired, not canceled, it's expired. So licensees have 12 months, that's the grace period after expiration, to renew, but you may not engage in activities requiring a license during that period. A late fee is also going to be charged for late renewals, right? So salespersons and associate brokers must attend at least 24 hours of continuing education every 2 years. Designated brokers, self-employed brokers, and associate brokers with delegated authority to review initial contracts and to hire or Several licensees must attend 30 hours, including 3 broker management clinics every 2 years. So salespersons and broker license. So it's 1 year to activate. The original license is for a 2 year license period, and the renewal licensees are issued for a 2 year period. You have a contract writing class, right? Salespersons only must complete to activate license, but it's not required to take exam. Broker management classes, broker only, must complete to activate license, but it's not required to take exam. Active versus inactive. Active is if you do not renew it, it becomes expired. Continuing education is 24 hours. Salesperson and associate brokers, they need 24 hours. Mandatory and elective categories. So for continuing education, they need 30 hours for a designated broker. If you're self-employed and you're an associate broker with delegated authority, mandatory and elective categories. You cannot conduct any business when it's expired. License expires and you have a 1 year grace period, but you cannot conduct any business. And you have to pay a late renewal fee. So after passing the state real estate exam, a person must place their license on active or inactive status within 1 year from the date of the exam in order to avoid taking the exam over. This is true, right? So just if you're not going to do anything with the real estate, just put it on inactive status so you don't have to take it. So, 4 or 5 years go by and you're on inactive status. It's okay, right? But you have to, once you put on active status, then you got to renew it every 2 years with the 24 continuing education hours. Some people need a real estate license just to do their job, and they have to put it on inactive status. And but you don't want to retake that state exam, like $200, and you only get 1 year to activate your license. Put on inactive or active. When a salesperson does not renew her or his license on a timely basis, the license is suspended. This is false, right? It's not suspended. It's what? It's expired. Right? It just expires like bad milk. Bad milk expires. Your license expires after not renewing it for 2 years. If a licensee continues to do business after the license expires, the licensee is subject to disciplinary action by the Department of Real Estate. This is true, right? So again, if a licensee continues to do business after license expires, licensee is subject to disciplinary action. So don't let your license expire. Make sure you renew it. A salesperson with an inactive license may list and sell real estate as long as the licensee renews the inactive license and completes the continuing education requirements. All right, this is false, right? A salesperson with an inactive license may list and sell real estate as long as the licensee renews the inactive license and completes the continuing education requirements. So the key word here is inactive. In order to list property for sale, you have to have an active license. A designated broker must complete at least 30 hours of continuing education to renew his or her license. This is true, right? DBs, right? They're the boss, right? The designated broker, who do they hire? They hire the associate brokers and they hire the salespersons, the realtors. And how many continuing education hours they need? They need 30. Associate brokers need 24. and realtors need 24. A temporary broker's license may be issued for a period not to exceed 90 days to the surviving spouse, next of kin, or personal representative of a deceased broker or a broker who is disabled or incompetent, right? That's when you can get a temporary broker's license. Should a broker ever place his or her license on inactive status? So, no. She or he should maintain an active license at the broker's residence, right? So, if you actually get your broker's license and should you ever place it on inactive, if you're thinking about putting it on active, just inactive, not doing anything with it, just put it on active and just put it at your residence because you're going to be doing less than 3 transactions per year and it doesn't hurt you. So if a broker's license is inactive for some time, then it expires and 1 year grace period lapses, the ADRE may not allow the person to reinstate the broker's license because he or she no longer meets the 3 out of the last 5 years active licensure requirement. So here's the caveat. If you work hard and you get your broker's license and then you're like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore, and you want to put it on inactive, don't do it. Because say, 4 years go by, you have to have your license active 3 out of the last 5 years, inactive status, to keep your broker's license. So you want to make sure you maintain that broker's license. How does the term expired differ from the term suspended, revoked, or terminated? So expired means the license was not renewed and the licensee is in his or her grace period. But if you're suspended or it was revoked, that implies disciplinary action, right? It was taken by the ADRE and the licensee was penalized. Terminated means that the person is no longer licensed, right? So when you go to look at people's status, right? Are they inactive? Are they active? Are they expired? Are they suspended? Are they revoked or terminated? If it's just expired, well, they didn't renew in 2 years. If it's suspended, revoked, or terminated, suspended or revoked, that means they did something and they had to get disciplined. And then, or terminated means they're no longer a realtor, no longer licensed. Not a realtor, not a broker. So temporary broker's license, broker deceased or incapacitated. That means your license is going to be good for 90 days, and the spouse or the next of kin when a designated broker dies or is incapacitated. Well, if the entity is a corporation and the designated broker is not a shareholder, a new designated broker may be hired. If the designated broker was a shareholder, member, or manager of the entity, you would see ARS 322125C. What is the purpose of a temporary broker's license? Well, it's going to be to allow the company to wind down business. What limitations are placed on the temporary license? The temporary license shall not exceed 90 days in duration. When a licensee fails to renew his or her license, the license is suspended. The answer is false, right? So it's not going to be suspended. What is it? It's expired. After a broker passes away, the spouse or next of kin may apply for a temporary broker's license in order to complete any company business. This is true. So after a broker passes away, the spouse or next of kin may apply for a temporary broker's license in order to complete any company business. A temporary broker's license may be issued for 9 months to the spouse of a deceased broker. This is false, right? Again, a temporary broker's license may be issued for 9 months. Not 9 months, 90 days. Temporary broker's license is issued to allow the business to wind down. This is true. Okay, ARS Title 32, Chapter 20, Article 3 deals with regulation. Unless otherwise agreed by all parties, a broker must immediately place all monies entrusted to the broker in either a neutral escrow depository in Arizona or in a trust fund account with a federally insured depository located in Arizona. Brokers in Arizona are not required to maintain a trust account unless they are engaged in property management. So you don't need a trust account unless you're going to do property management. Trust account requirements. So deposits must be made by deposit slips, receipts, or other documents shall identify each transaction, contain the date and amount of deposit, state the names of the parties of the transaction. The broker's name is not required to appear on the receipt. Money shall be used only for the purpose for which they were deposited. Complete records of all monies received must be maintained in the broker's main or branch office. Brokers shall use generally accepted accounting principles, say GAAP, and shall include a descriptive receipt and disbursement journal and client ledger. Brokers must reconcile the client ledger balance on a monthly basis and must remove any interest earned at least once every 12 months. Commingling of clients' monies with the broker's personal funds is prohibited, obviously. It is not considered commingling if a broker deposits money not to exceed $3,000 to keep a trust account open or to avoid charges for an insufficient minimum balance. So, disposition of funds. You need to deposit immediately. Broker's trust account or put an escrow account. The parties may otherwise agree. So, in what situation may monies not be deposited in a trust account or escrow? All parties must agree in writing not to deposit it in an escrow or a trust account, but to handle the monies in some other way. So that's if all the parties agree. What are some of the situations in which earnest money would not be placed in escrow? So if you have new home sales contracts, and when the contract specifies the earnest money is non-refundable. So that's when it would not be placed in escrow. So to reiterate, if you have a new home, you're buying a new build, typically you wouldn't put earnest money. Earnest money wouldn't be placed in escrow, right? Because it's a new build. What are the requirements for the escrow company or bank that holds a trust account? So they must be situated in Arizona, and the bank depository must be federally insured. What are the trust account requirements? Well, you need to have a deposit slip, You need to have itemized info on receipt, like the broker's name. Is the broker's name is not required actually. You can't use money for other purposes. You can't commingle your funds. Trust account requirements: complete records in broker's office. GAAP principles. As for accounting, you want to reconcile the balance ledger monthly. You want to remove interest annually. No commingling, and it cannot be more than $3,000 max in the broker's money when it bears interest. So brokers must deposit clients' funds in a federally insured bank or with the licensed escrow company in Arizona. This is true. If the parties agree, earnest money may be non-refundable or be deposited in a builder's operating account. This is true. Escrow companies that accept earnest money must be located in Arizona. This is true. So we go back again. Escrow companies that accept earnest money, they must be located in Arizona. A broker must reconcile a trust account each month. This is true, right? Brokers have to reconcile trust accounts. That's if they're doing property management. Most brokers that I'm aware of uh, that don't do property management do not need a trust account. Interest on money held in a broker's trust account may accumulate in favor of the broker and not the clients. This is true, right? So you have maybe a $5,000 in a trust account and it's earning interest. That interest money that's being earned is going to be in favor of the broker. But it can't go more than $3,000. A broker would be commingling funds if the broker had more than $3,000 of the broker's money in a trust account. That is true. You can't commingle funds. Brokers may use accounting practices accepted in any country. That is false, right? It has to be the GAAP accounting method. So according to ARS Title 32, Chapter 20, does regulation. A broker must keep records of all transactions for a period of at least 5 years. You know, five, the FIVE, and then emperors 5 years from the closing of termination of the transaction, right? So if you close, how long do you have to keep it? 5 years. The type of earnest money received in a real estate transaction, whether it's cash, check, promissory note, must be stated in the purchase agreement. So usually in your contracts, you have to actually mark how you're going to do the earnest money. All licensees shall place all monies in the care of the designated broker promptly. The broker shall maintain transaction folders in a chronological log or other systematic manner. Sales transaction folders shall include confirmation that monies were handled properly, complete copies of sales contracts, escrow account receipts, closing statements, escrow instructions, listing agreements, or other employment agreements. All contracts except residential lease agreements must be reviewed and approved by the broker or authorized associate broker within 10 business days of execution, and are still valid even if the broker fails to review and issue them. So again, are still valid even if the broker fails to review and issue them. The broker has 10 days, DB, designated broker has 10 days to review and issue. But if it doesn't, it's still valid. An original or copy of a rejected offer to a purchased real property must be retained by the broker for at least 1 year. So even if it's a rejected offer and you didn't close on it, you still got to keep it. You still got to keep a record of it for 1 year. In instances that result in binding contracts, The broker shall retain rejected offers for at least 5 years. So ADRE is substantive policy statement. Short title: Guidance for using electronic real estate transaction management and or document storage programs. So the designated broker may implement a transaction management program for internal standardization of document storage, so long as the document storage program adheres to the guidelines mandated by the Arizona Revised Statutes and the Arizona Administrative Code rules, Commissioner's rules or rules applicable to the Arizona Department of Real Estate, Department or ADRE. Understanding there are several computer-based transaction management and our document storage programs, TM system or electronic storage system. This advisory provides guidance and outlines the responsibilities of brokers who are using or intend to use any electronic record program. So in our case, we use the Google Classroom to store all of our documents. Electronic recording, backup records, transaction and employment records required to be maintained pursuant to statute or rule.
If you're still up later, I'll hop on.
Here, just doing start
Alright,
recording.
Bet.
I'm already recording. So I'm gonna start recording this. I'm gonna let you just log in, but I'm gonna record for like 10-15 minutes to
Where do
get
I
some
log in?
slides.
Where do I log in?
Oh, just go to Google Chrome
Where is that at?
right there. Yeah. And then go into your Gmail account. Low plus. And just sign in and get started. Let me do this for like 10 minutes. I don't know.
Sign into Chrome or just Google Classroom?
Your Gmail in the Chrome. All right, so electronic record keeping, backing up records, transaction and employment records required to be maintained pursuant to statute or rule must be backed up, duplicated, and stored in a secure offsite location controlled by the broker in a manner allowing restoration in the event electronic data maintained at the principal place of business is destroyed. Production of records must be reproducible for the department at the broker's expense in a legible paper form, hard copy, upon the request of the commissioner or the commissioner's representative for auditing, inspection, or investigating purposes. Brokers who maintain electronic records in a computer-based transaction management and or document storage program may provide the Department with electronic access to records unless a hard copy is specifically requested by the department. Electronic records maintained in electronic storage system should be legible, exact duplicates of the original documents. Maintenance of a log. Brokers using web-based TM document storage program shall maintain a log in a chronological or other systematic manner that lists each real estate purchase contract or lease agreement and identifies the file in which these documents are maintained. If the web-based TM and our document storage program maintains this log or list electronically, it should be made easily accessible upon request by the commissioner or the commissioner's representatives. If the web-based TM and our document storage program is not capable of maintaining this log or list electronically, the broker shall maintain a separate list or log in either written or electronic form and shall make it available to the commissioner or the commissioner representative upon request. Notification requirements. If the file severs containing a broker's web-based TM and our document storage program are directly or indirectly owned by the broker shall inform the commissioner in writing of the location of these file servers. If the file servers containing a broker's web-based TM and our document storage program are not directly or indirectly owned by the broker shall inform the commissioner in writing of the legal address and name of the entity responsible for storing such records. The broker shall be required to show evidence that the broker's electronic records are backed up in accordance with this SPS and SPS 2005.06. Click here addressing electronic record keeping. The commissioner's access to the broker's files shall be used for routine audits or audit reviews of broker files to ensure compliance with any requirements in the relevant statutes and rules, including but not limited to ensuring that brokers maintain documents in a timely manner, and any other purposes the commissioner deems necessary to protect Arizona consumers. Electronic signature. A broker's statutory review of contracts and agreements maintained on electronic transaction management storage system may be recorded through a data secure electronic signature in compliance with ARS 44-7031. The TM document system must have a means of demonstrating in accordance with ARS 44 through 447034 as applicable that when the signature was made, the signature was unique to the person using it, capable of verification under the sole control of the person using it, and linked to the electronic record it relates to in such a manner that if the record were changed, that the electronic signature would be invalidated. Electronic review of any document is permitted in lieu of actual initials on a document, providing that such electronic review is recorded in an unalterable history or log file. The broker must enforce a written supervision policy requiring personal computer security that, at a minimum, requires each person with electronic signature authority and capability to lock or sign off his or her computer every time he or she walks away from the computer. The broker must have a backup system defining how and when contracts and agreements will be reviewed in situations when the broker's computer become inaccessible for an extended period of time. The electronic TM document storage system must have the ability to create a secure history log of all activity for electronic signatures or broker review, which can be reviewed by department auditors and investigators. Authority, ARS, and that's the effective date since 2018. So the record keeping records need to be kept for 5 years from closing or termination. Record keeping is available for inspection. Only licensees are to withdraw monies, except for property managers. Earnest money type is going to be stated in the contract. Monies to broker promptly. Brokers are going to need to maintain that log. Transaction folders are going to need to include monies handled properly and need complete copies. Broker needs to review the documents within 10 business days of acceptance. Broker must review an initial agreements reviewed by a designated broker or associate broker with delegated authority. Contract is going to be valid if broker fails to review and initial. Rejected offers, how long do they need to be kept? They need to be kept for 1 year. What records or documents are required to be kept? Records must be kept of all transactions and employment records for all current and former employees. This is ARS, Arizona Revised Statute 32-2151, lists the records that must, at a minimum, be kept. Where may the records be maintained? Well, at the broker's main or branch office or an off-site storage location in Arizona. For how long must records be kept? 5 years from termination of the transaction or employment agreement. What are the requirements for storage and ownership of electronic records? The ADRE must have access to electronic records, and the broker must have backed up copies of electronic records. How should monies received by a licensee be handled? They must be placed in the care of the designated broker promptly. At a minimum, what must be included in a sales transaction folder? Well, confirmation that monies were handled in accordance with the transaction and complete copies of the sales contract, escrow account receipts, closing statements, escrow instructions, listing agreements, buyer broker agreements, and release of escrow monies. Who may review and initial contracts, and within what time period must they be initialed? The designated broker or associate broker with written authorization within 10 business days. What are the requirements for rejected offers? Well, rejected offers must be kept for 1 year. If it results in a binding contract, the prior rejected offer must be kept for 5 years. A brokerage firm must keep records for a minimum of 5 years from closing or termination of a transaction. This is true, right? So a brokerage firm must keep records for a minimum of 5 years when they close a termination of a contract. The form of earnest money must be stated in a purchase contract. This is true, right? True or false? So again, the form of earnest money must be stated in the purchase contract. So when we have contracts and there's going to be a designated area where you put in the earnest money, and you have to note, is it what type, how is it going to be transferred as a wire? Earnest money is going to be handled in a, where's that going to occur? The designated broker must review and initial contracts within 15 business days of the contract acceptance. This is false, right? So how many business days do we have? 10 business days. So DBs, designated brokers, they have 10 business days to review and initial contracts. A broker must retain rejected offers for 1 year from the date of rejection. This is true, right? Correct answer is true. So if you have a rejected offer, you need to keep that for 1 year. If a broker fails to review and initial contracts within the required time, the contract becomes void. This is false. If a broker fails to review and initial contracts within the required time, the contract is still valid. Residential lease agreements are not required to be reviewed and initialed by the broker. This is true, right? The correct answer is true. Residential lease agreements, they're not required to be reviewed and initialed by the broker, right? That's property management information, and the broker doesn't have to do that. If the parties to a previously rejected offer eventually enter into a contract to purchase the rejected offer may be discarded. This is false, right? So even if it's a rejected offer, you still have to keep it for at least 1 year. Accepted offers that close, you need to keep them for 5 years. Definitions of real estate language and concepts represent a critical element of the licensing exam. So PC or PLLC, what does that mean? Salesperson may be licensed in this manner. Real estate salesperson must work for a licensed broker, exempt from licensing. Attorney, in fact, in isolated transaction. Temporary broker's license is issued to a spouse, next of kin, or executor of a deceased broker. So say your broker dies, you have 90 days to pick someone else to work in their absence. Key terms while we're wrapping up this chapter. One is the attorney in fact. So this key term is a person specifically designated in an instrument. So like a power of attorney, right? You go down to a bank, you go open up a power of attorney for someone. Is to do something legally for another in his stead. So if you have an attorney in fact, which is like a power of attorney over someone else where you can sign documents on behalf of that person, an attorney in fact has a fiduciary relationship with the principal, right? So an attorney, in fact, needs not be an attorney at law. You don't have to have an attorney. In fact, you can have a power of attorney over someone else and sign their stuff, but you don't actually have to be an attorney at law, right? You can be attorney in fact, which grants you, or you can get power of attorney to sign paperwork over someone else, such that, like, so if someone's too old, they can't care for themselves, or if they're disabled and they can't care for themselves either. Real estate salesperson is going to be a person licensed by their zone Department of Real Estate who is associated with and works on behalf of a DB, designated broker. Temporary broker's license is a license issued to a spouse, next of kin, or other responsible individual, or to an employee of a brokerage for the purpose of closing the business if the broker dies, is disabled, or is otherwise unable to perform. So let's go over the unit summary to close out this unit. So a salesperson always represents the broker. Brokers and salespersons may have their license issued to a PLLC or PC. PLLC meaning professional limited liability company, or PC is a professional company. Brokers or salespersons may not be licensed to more than one real estate company at the same time. So if you're a realtor, you can only hang your license with one broker. Can you hang it with two brokers? No. Owners buying, selling, or leasing their own property are not required to be licensed, right? So if you're doing it for sale by owner, you don't need to be licensed. Other persons not required to be licensed are an attorney in fact, acting in an isolated transaction. So if you have power of attorney over someone else, you don't need to be licensed. Bankruptcy trustee foreclosing a deed of trust, government employees performing real estate duties as part of their employment, a natural person managing commercial property, the manager or on-site leasing agent, a person soliciting reservations or accepting money. Brokers or salespersons must activate the license within 1 year from the date of passing the exam. So you go take your exam, you pass the exam, you only have 1 year to activate your license. If you don't, then you have to retake the exam. Licensees may be maintained on active or inactive status, but must be on active status to earn compensation. Salesperson and associate brokers must review their license every 2 years and complete a minimum of 24 hours of continuing education. Designated brokers must complete a minimum of 30 hours of continuing education, which must include 9 hours of broker management clinics. Regarding a temporary broker's license, one may be issued to the spouse. It's issued, you got 90 days. Its purpose to wind down the broker's business. Unless otherwise agreed to all parties, funds received by the broker must be immediately placed in a neutral escrow depository or in a trust account. Brokers must keep deposit slips for all monies the broker handles. Brokers must follow generally accepted and accounting principles when handling funds. Trust accounts must be reconciled monthly. Commingling or conversion of funds is prohibited. A broker may keep up to $3,000 of the earnings of their money in a trust account. A broker must keep transaction records a minimum of how many years? 5 years, 1 year if it's a rejected offer. The type of earnest money must be stated in the contract. Broker records must be maintained in a chronological order in a systematic manner. All contracts except residential leases must be reviewed and initialed by the broker within 10 business days of execution. Rejected offers must be kept for a minimum of 1 year. Okay, so next up, we're going to talk about Unit 4,